Welcome, garden friends. Thanks for taking some time out of your garden to come visit mine. Now, I promised you I'd have everything planted. Not even close, but I'm getting closer. I'm way behind, but the beans are up. Most of the tomatoes are in. You know, part of my succession planting is not planting my last tomatoes until midsummer. And so I'm leaving a little bit of room for those. But in the upcoming weeks, we're going to be talking a lot about pollinators. Helping pollinators is an important part of this organic garden, and having a bee house like this one is a great way to help them out, give them some habitat, leave some areas a little bit weedy. I've got plenty of weedy for the pollinators, and one of the plants that I'm growing in the vegetable garden that I just love is called borage. Not only will it bring the bees in when the sun comes out this afternoon, but it has a beautiful blue color, and believe it or not, those flowers are edible and tastes like cucumbers. All right, let's get to work. We're going to do some harvesting in the morning. You know, gardening is all about the weather. We have a little bit of a cool spell here. This lettuce has got to be harvested because it's just starting to bolt. What lettuce does, and other leafy greens, is they'll just love the cool weather and grow like crazy, and then you get 90 degrees and they're like, oh my gosh, I got to make some seeds. I've got to procreate. So that's what this one's doing, and I'm catching it just before it sends up that seed head, and I've got some lettuce back there too. We have the perfect day to do this. We want to be out here in the morning when it's nice and cool, and we had a cool night last night. That's when the plants have the most moisture in them and is the best time to harvest. I actually found also more garlic scapes, so we'll be making more garlic pesto today. You don't have to see how to do that again, but this is simple. We're just going to cut all this lettuce out of here. Sometimes with leaf lettuce, when it's nice and cool, I can make this cut and it'll come back again, but it's already gone into that bolting mode, and I'm just going to bring them all out of here. And boy, there's nothing like fresh spring lettuce, and these are doing the same thing. Now I got to figure out something else to put in here, but I'm going to think about that for a day or two. Okay, meet me down the other bed, and I'm going to get some of that lettuce there. We're just catching this romaine as it starts to go. If I waited, it will get really bitter and become inedible. We're going to have a great salad tonight, that's for sure. One of the benefits of growing your own garlic is we've got those garlic scapes, but also I like to pick one or two bulbs early. You can see it's not as big as it should be, and the papery sheath that's on here is not hardened up at all. This is the freshest garlic you can get, and it's filled with garlic oil. We'll check these out. This is part of my low maintenance garden plan. These have all self-sowed. They've sprouted from flowers that were here from last year. This is a flowering tobacco, Nicotiana, that's called jasmine tobacco. And that's what it smells like. It smells like jasmine late in the evening. And can you imagine that no work was put into this? These just came up, they're blooming, and they're gonna go all summer long. Just a very easy plant to grow. If you can find some in the nursery, stick some in, and yours might do the same thing. Well, as I said, gardening is all about the weather, watching when the rain's coming. I'm hoping in a couple days we get rain. It's going to get hot. But I've been promising a friend to give him one of these hardy bananas. And, you know, it started off with just one big banana, and now I've got 3 medium-sized bananas. This thing's going to get 20 feet high eventually. That's what it did last year. I've never moved one, so I'm just going to get in there, dig it out of there, put it into the pot, and then going to be hers. So we're just going to look around the outside and see what it's going to take to move that and separate it from the mother plant. Oh, that looks like it. I thought it was going to be much harder than that. Well, that's it. I hope that's it. It looks like they cut off a lot of the roots, but we'll try and root it and see what happens. That's it. All right, I'm getting water on this right away. So I'm really not sure about this. Did I get enough of the root? Did I get enough of the tuber here? I'm not sure, but I'm gonna water this in right away, put it in the shade. Hopefully it'll root and catch on, and then I can give it to my friend. I think it's gonna be okay. So we touched on deer-resistant plants a little bit last week. We'll probably talk a lot about it. I live in a, like I said, a Disney movie. There's little bucks running through here. They're eating my lilac. I just started spraying that. I just saw, before we started filming, my hydrangea is being nibbled on. But I'm growing these annual salvias out here unprotected. So far, so good for the last several seasons. The deer have not touched them. They're from the sage family, so they must have a fragrance that they just don't like, but there's so many different cool flowers. Check them out. The salvias have become one of my many garden obsessions because of their deer resistance. Growing lots of different types of annuals. I love all the different colors and textures of the flowers. Very easy to grow. All I gotta do is keep them watered, a little bit of fertilizer here and there, but you can never be sure that something's deer resistant. Just when you think it's safe, one of those little bucks will come and start nibbling on it. But so far, so good. And as I said, it's been going on like this for seasons. Shh, there's babies in there. We're not gonna be here long and we are not bothering them. One of the other great things about having an organic garden is knowing that those parents that are feeding those babies are safe in getting the bugs out of the garden, and that's what they'll do. I'll sit on the other side and just watch the parents hunting for these bugs and bring them up, and they will sing for their supper. Now it's time for Talking Trees from the Davey Tree Expert Company. I'm joined this week again by Luke Werner. He's a district manager for the Davey Tree Expert Company in the North Pittsburgh office. Last week we talked about maples and some other things. This Japanese maple, though, has got me worried, Luke.
Yeah, has some battle wounds, but you know, a little bit of proper care, it'll be all right.
This to me looks scary.
Yeah, so what...
Oh, that's not wet though. Yeah, that is wet.
It is?
Yeah.
So what we have here is a wound that happened likely from a branch that had died, wasn't
there a branch
removed.
probably coming out?
Yeah, just like this. And it was coming out this way, and you know, it may have died, got broken off. A lot of people don't, you know, they see a dead limb, and instead of taking the time maybe to cut it off, they might just, you know, pop it off because it comes off easy.
Okay, I didn't do that.
Yeah. Now what you have with that is when you don't have that nice cut, right, for all this healing wood to heal over, and it can nice and compartmentalize over that, oftentimes you get a cavity. Because this healing wood here, it keeps rolling over, and since it doesn't have something to go against, it just takes a long time to totally cover.
I mean, there's a chance that with a wound this size that eventually it will cover it?
It can with time. Ideally, you want to keep the moisture out of there. So if you do feel that, you can feel it. It's kind of damp in there.
Yeah, that can't be good.
No, the problem, exactly.
Ugh.
Yeah, and what happens is then you get a little bit of the carpenter ants, and that's what you see a little bit of the sawdust from here too.
Oh boy.
So they come in. Carpenter ants aren't the problem. They're just taking advantage, you know, of the home and the situation.
So what do you think? What should I do with something like this?
A lot of times with this, if you can, you know, get in there with a tool, dig out some of that decayed wood, that kind of debris in there. If you get some expandable foam.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you can put that in there and kind of create that cut that you would have made.
All right.
So then if you cut that back a little bit, now you're giving this tree a surface to then heal over onto, and it keeps the moisture out.
You know, one thing I wanted to ask you, and I get this question a lot, is when people do make a cut, they're used to, in the old days, you know, putting some kind of tree goop or something on it, and I know that's not a good idea, right?
Correct. Yeah, it's not necessary, and oftentimes it can actually impede the healing process. Right at these unions where branches come off and you want to cut that branch, when you cut at that branch bark ridge and that branch collar, the cells in the tree are specifically designed to heal over, healing cells, if you will.
The only time, and we talked about this on the radio a couple weeks ago, the only time, and I've learned this from you, to put that on there is if it's an oak tree during this growth period, right?
Correct. Oaks or elms.
And that's because?
Just to stop a lot of that sap flow, because with oaks, you know, those bark beetles come, they're that vector for the disease, they carry the disease. So you're trying to hide that from those insects so they can't find your oak.
That's the oak wilt, right?
Correct.
We got that on red oaks over there.
Yeah, it's not good stuff.
All right, let's keep talking maple because we got to go up here and there's some other things that to me don't look very good.
Yeah, let's take a look.
Well, look at this. This to me does not look good. This is some kind of crack or something. What do you think happened here, and what's the diagnosis?
Yeah, so there's a lot of different things that can cause this. Sometimes a branch falls, hits the lead, it can create that wound. And oftentimes, you know, in shaded areas like this, a lot of these trees will, you know, defoliate in the fall. And then in the winter, you have the sun shining down, and it's a nice warm, you know, spot on the tree, and it can actually crack it there, excuse me, and cause this wound. But here, all this wood on each side is healing over. So it's a good thing it is packing on that healing tissue.
You know, now that we're looking close at this tree, I'm not taking very good care of it because these are just branches that look like they just fell off. I didn't even remember them being here. When something like this dies, I should be out here with the pruning saw, right?
Yeah, you should. There's always a lot to do, you know, when you have a lot of trees, but
are you making excuses for me? I like that.
A little bit.
There's a lot to do, Luke. There's a lot to do.
There is. Sometimes there's too much. But here you do have a little bit of a surface. Ideally, it would have been down a little bit farther, but you still have that. It's probably not going to form a cavity. It may, you know, roll over there and cover up before that totally decays in there.
Overall, what are you thinking about this tree? Now, this tree's been here probably 20 years. If I clean that out of there and put my foam insulation in there, is that what it is, foam insulation?
Yeah, that's what it's originally used for. Once it expands and hardens, you want to cut it off also. Yeah.
Then let this do its thing.
Mm-hmm.
Leave it as be.
Correct.
Chances this tree's going to be okay?
I think it'll be okay.
Oh, that's good to hear. As always, thanks so much for coming to visit.
Of course, it was a pleasure, Doug.
I learned something. I always do.
That's what we're here for.
It's great to be harvesting. We're gonna have a nice salad tonight. Some more garlic scape pesto. I think I'm gonna give that to my son. He's a garlic lover too. Pretty soon, the full-size bulbs will be ready. Please like, comment, and subscribe to this video. That's how those YouTube analytics work, and I would appreciate it. As always, I appreciate you taking some time to visit my garden. Until next week, keep planting. We'll see you then.